Have you ever spent the afternoon with your grandchild, everything going just fine, maybe even great, then all of a sudden, it's like a switch flips? One minute they're laughing, playing, bouncing from one toy to the next, and the next minute they're falling apart. Tears, tantrums, yelling, or shutting down completely. And you're left wondering, what just happened? Now, if that sounds familiar, you're definitely not alone. And I'll tell you something, most of the time, what you're seeing isn't just bad behavior or a grumpy mood. It's something deeper. Something a lot of us weren't taught to recognize when we were raising our own kids. That something is overstimulation. It can sneak up quietly, especially in today's world: constant noise, flashing screens, fast-paced schedules, toys that talk and blink and beep. It's a lot. And for a young child's brain, it can sometimes be too much. Their nervous systems are still learning how to process the world, and when there's too much going on, they start to short-circuit a little. The result? Big feelings, big reactions, and lots of confusion for everyone involved. That's why this topic matters, especially for those of us in our 60s or beyond who are helping raise grandchildren, spending time with little ones, or simply trying to understand this new parenting landscape. The more we understand what's really going on, the more we can support them in ways that are gentle, kind, and actually helpful. So today, we're going to talk about 5 signs your child, or grandchild, might be overstimulated, and more importantly, what you can do about it. We're not just talking theory here. These are real-life signs you can spot and steps you can take to bring the calm back into your day. Let's start with one of the most common signs, and one of the most misunderstood: sudden mood changes or meltdowns over nothing. You know the scene. 1 second, they're fine. The next, they're screaming because their sock feels weird or their banana broke in half. It seems silly from the outside, but to a child who's overstimulated, that tiny thing might just be the last straw. See, when a child's nervous system is overwhelmed, even a small disappointment or frustration can feel gigantic. Their brain is already flooded with too much input: noises, lights, movement, emotions, and there's just no more space to cope. So, they fall apart. And it's not because they're spoiled or dramatic. It's because their system literally can't handle more. Now, when this happens, our instinct might be to correct or reason with them. It's just a sock, we might say. Or, you're overreacting. But here's where a shift in approach can make all the difference. Instead of trying to fix the surface problem, try calming their environment first. Soften your voice. Dim the lights. Reduce noise. Maybe even scoop them up for a cuddle, if they're open to it. When their surroundings calm down, their emotions often follow. Another sign to look for is hyperactivity that seems out of control. This one can be tricky, because high energy in kids is normal, healthy, even. But when they start bouncing from one thing to another without focus, talking a mile a minute, crashing into furniture, or getting unusually wild, it might not be just energy. It might be their way of releasing that overstimulation. Their body is saying, "I've taken in too much, and I don't know what to do with it." So it comes out as movement, lots of it. You might notice them getting louder, sillier, maybe even more defiant. And the key here isn't to stop the movement, but to gently guide it into something soothing. Maybe it's a walk outside. Maybe it's laying on a soft rug with a weighted blanket. Maybe it's a few minutes of quiet play with something simple, like building blocks or coloring. These moments don't just calm them down, they give their system a chance to reset. And here's the thing, you might start noticing patterns. Certain times of day, certain environments, or even certain foods that seem to push them into these overstimulated states. Paying attention to those clues can help you prepare ahead of time. Maybe they need a little quiet time before dinner, or fewer errands in a single day. Sometimes, prevention is the best solution of all. There's something else I want to touch on, and that's irritability with no clear cause. This isn't your average "I'm tired" grumpiness, it's a prickly, hard-to-please kind of mood that shows up when they've just had enough. You might notice everything bothers them: too hot, too cold, too loud, too boring. They might snap at siblings, resist anything you offer, or push away the very things they usually enjoy. Again, this isn't about attitude. It's about overload. Their brain is shouting, too much. But they don't have the words to say it that way. So they show it in whatever way they can. And in those moments, what they really need is not more stimulation, like distractions or pep talks, but less. Simplicity. A slower pace. A quiet room. Your calm presence. Sometimes just sitting nearby, without saying much, is enough. Letting them know they don't have to do anything right now. That it's okay to just be. That kind of permission, especially in a world that's always rushing, can be the most healing thing of all. So far, we've looked at mood swings, wild energy, and crankiness that seems to come from nowhere. Each of these can be signs of overstimulation. And as we talk more about this, you might start to realize these aren't problems to fix. They're messages. Clues. Your child's way of saying, I'm overwhelmed, and I need your help to slow down. And you, with your life experience and steady presence, are exactly the kind of person who can guide them through it, gently, patiently, and with more love than any gadget or screen could ever offer. Now that we've touched on a few of the signs, let's keep going. Let's keep going and look a little closer at what overstimulation can really look like, especially in ways that might surprise you. Because sometimes, it doesn't come out as big emotions or high energy. Sometimes, it shows up in the exact opposite way. You might notice your child suddenly gets very quiet. Withdrawn. Maybe they retreat into a corner, stop responding, or avoid eye contact. You ask them a question and they don't answer. You try to get them involved in play or snack time, and they just sit there, staring at nothing or fiddling with something in their hands. This kind of shutdown isn't always easy to spot, because from the outside, it might even seem like they're calming down. But here's the truth, some kids respond to too much stimulation not by acting out, but by turning in. Their brain gets so overwhelmed that it just hits the brakes. Like a turtle pulling into its shell. This is often mistaken for shyness, moodiness, or being uncooperative, but in reality, it's a nervous system trying to protect itself. Now, the tricky part is knowing what to do. Because pushing them to engage, come on, talk to me, or let's play, can actually make things worse. What they need is space and gentle reassurance. Maybe you sit nearby and say something like, it looks like you need a little quiet time. I'm right here when you're ready. That little sentence lets them know they're safe, they're seen, and they don't have to perform or explain themselves. Sometimes, just dimming the lights, turning off background noise, or wrapping them in a soft blanket can work wonders. You're not spoiling them, you're giving their brain a break. And let me tell you, kids who learn how to self-regulate with our support often grow into adults who can do the same. That's a gift that lasts a lifetime. Another important sign to keep an eye on, and one that's easy to overlook, is when a child starts getting extra clingy or anxious. All of a sudden, they won't let you leave the room. They want to be held constantly. They start asking questions like, are you going to leave, or what if something bad happens? It can seem out of the blue, especially if they were doing fine earlier in the day. This kind of behavior often shows up when a child has been overstimulated for a while and is feeling emotionally wobbly. Imagine if your whole day felt like being at a loud, crowded carnival with no breaks. Your nerves would be on edge, too. For kids, the world can feel that way more often than we realize. When that happens, they look for an anchor. Someone safe, steady, familiar. That's usually you. So how can you respond in those moments? The first thing is to stay steady yourself. Even if you're tired, even if your back aches and you were really hoping for a little quiet, your calm presence makes a huge difference. Sometimes I say something simple like, you're safe, I'm here, or let's sit together for a bit. You don't need fancy words, just a soft tone and steady energy. And if you're noticing that this clinginess happens regularly after certain activities, like a busy playdate, a noisy family gathering, or even a long day of errands, that's a good clue that it's not just a phase. It's overstimulation catching up with them. And that means it's time to build in more breaks, more quiet, and more calm transitions throughout the day. Now, one thing I always remind myself and others is that you don't have to make things perfect, you just need to be present. When your grandchild is clinging, crying, or just acting off, your job isn't to fix it all in that moment. It's simply to be the soft place they can land. And believe me, the fact that they want to come to you says a lot about the safety and trust you've already built. At this point, you might be thinking, okay, I can see some of these signs. But what do I actually do about it, besides just being calm and patient? That's a great question, and I'll tell you what I've learned over time. The best response to overstimulation is prevention. That means creating small rhythms in your day that protect a child's nervous system before it gets overwhelmed. For example, if you know mornings tend to be rough, maybe you keep things slow and quiet first thing. If afternoons bring a lot of bouncing and shouting, that might be a good time for a quiet corner break, with books, soft pillows, and dim lighting. Not as a punishment, but as a place to reset. It also helps to limit the kind of stimulation they're exposed to. That doesn't mean no screens or outings or playdates, but it means being thoughtful. One activity at a time. Simple toys over flashy ones. Time to decompress after something exciting. And maybe most importantly, giving yourself permission to say, that's enough for today. Kids don't always know their limits, but you can help set them. And while we're talking about limits, let's not forget about ours, too. Caring for children, especially as we get older, takes real energy. And when we're tired, it's easier to miss the signs of overstimulation or respond in ways we later regret. That's why taking care of yourself is part of the solution, too. A short rest, a quiet cup of tea, a phone call with a friend, those little things keep you grounded, which helps you stay calm when the little ones aren't. We've now touched on those quieter signs of overstimulation, the shutting down, the clinginess, the anxious energy, and what you can do when you see them. The most important thing to remember? You're not alone in this. And you don't have to get it all right. Children don't need perfection. They need someone who notices, who listens, and who shows up with love, even on the messy days. Let's take a deep breath together. You're doing beautifully. Now that we've explored some of the more subtle signs, those quiet moments when a child seems to disappear into themselves or clings a little tighter than usual, there's one more signal we haven't talked about yet, and it might be the most confusing of all. It's when a child seems to go into what I call silly overload. You know what I mean, everything becomes a joke. They start making goofy noises, running in circles, talking nonstop, and laughing at things that don't even make sense. At first, it might seem harmless, even cute. But then it keeps going. And going. And suddenly they're bouncing off the walls, not listening, getting louder, maybe even getting into trouble. This isn't just a case of having fun. More often than not, it's a sign that they've crossed that line into overstimulation. Their energy isn't joyful, it's frantic. And they can't seem to stop themselves. That kind of silliness isn't bad, but it's often a red flag that their little system is running on empty. Think of it like a balloon that's been overfilled with air. One more puff, and it's going to pop. What makes this tricky is that it doesn't always look like a problem. Especially to those of us who grew up with the idea that children should be seen and not heard, or that wildness was just disobedience. But now we know more. We know that behind that overly silly behavior is often a child who's desperate for some calm, some direction, and a safe boundary to bring them back to center. So what can we do in those moments? First, it helps to lower your own energy. If they're ramping up, you don't need to match their volume or try to shout over it. Try going the other way. Soften your voice. Slow your movements. You'd be surprised how often children start mirroring you without even realizing it. I'll sometimes say something gentle like, let's take a quiet breath together, or how about we lie down for a moment. It doesn't always work right away, but it plants the seed. You can also try switching the activity entirely. Turn off the TV. Step outside into fresh air. Offer something tactile and grounding, like a fidget toy or even a soft cloth to fold. These are small shifts, but they can help a child reset their focus and settle their nervous system. Sometimes they'll resist, and that's okay. It just means they're still wound up. Stay with them. Stay patient. Your calm is like an anchor in a storm. Even if they don't respond immediately, your presence is working on them in ways you might not see. And here's something important. Once they do calm down, take a quiet moment together. Sit beside them. Maybe offer a snack or a sip of water. Maybe just rest your hand on their back and say something like, "That got to be a little too much, huh? It's okay. You're safe now." That kind of comfort can mean more to a child than any lecture or rule ever could. Now that we've talked through all 5 signs, meltdowns over small things, hyperactivity, irritability, withdrawal, and silly overload, I want to leave you with something even more important than recognizing the signs. And that's trusting your instincts. If you're watching this video, chances are you already care deeply about doing things differently. You want to understand. You want to be supportive. And that alone makes you powerful. Even if you don't get it right every time, even if you miss the signs once in a while, your desire to be present and patient is already making a difference. One of the beautiful things about growing older is the perspective it gives us. You've likely seen the pendulum swing a few times, strict parenting, gentle parenting, somewhere in between. But what never changes is the need for connection. Children of every generation need someone who listens without judgment, who offers structure without fear, and who brings love without conditions. And in this fast-paced, noisy world, the gift of your calm presence is more powerful than ever. So, as you move through your day, whether you're looking after your grandchild for a few hours, helping out after school, or just spending quality time together, try watching through this new lens. Ask yourself, are they really acting out, or are they just overwhelmed? That single shift in perspective can change how you respond and how they feel about themselves. Because that's the real goal here. Not just avoiding tantrums or managing behavior, but helping a child feel understood, safe, seen. You're not just guiding them in the moment, you're teaching them how to navigate the world. And that's no small thing. If you found this video helpful or if any of these signs made you think, "Wow, I've seen that exact thing happen," I'd love to hear your story. Maybe there was a moment that clicked for you, or a time when you realized your child or grandchild just needed a break, not a scolding. Share it in the comments. Your words might be just what someone else needs to hear. And if you'd like more videos like this, gentle, thoughtful tips for navigating parenting and grandparenting in today's world, please go ahead and like this video and subscribe. We're building a little corner of the internet that's full of kindness, wisdom, and encouragement. You're welcome here anytime. Remember, overstimulation doesn't mean something's wrong with the child or with you. It's just a signal. And with a little understanding, a little quiet, and a whole lot of love, we can meet that signal with grace. Take good care of yourself and those little ones who are lucky to have you. Here's to growing wiser, softer, and stronger at every age.